Hey guys, it's me, Mustard, and I'm here with my first video, so pat on the back for me, but let's hope I keep uploading after this. Anyways, so for this first video, I want to talk about a topic that I think is pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys would agree, but that is Keqing's state in the meta, and if I think she needs a buff, or if what is the issue with her, and why do people think she's weak, and if she is actually weak. I don't think she's weak, but let's get into it. So to start things off, let's talk about why people think she's underpowered, and what do we even mean by she's underpowered. Why don't people just outwardly call her weak? It's probably because I feel like underpowered is, first of all, it's weak implies that the character has no strength, right? And underpowered means they're not as strong as they could be or should be, which I think is somewhat true. Like, Keqing's damage would be a lot better if she was if she was like a pyro element, you know? If she had access to stronger reactions, but like, some people think she needs a buff, and I disagree. First of all, even though she is part of the electro element, which I'll talk about why I think it's weak, she does a lot of damage. I mean, Keqing was the second character I got, so I might be biased here. I mean, second 5-star I got, but I might be biased here. But like, I honestly think that even though, yeah, she needs a little bit more investment, but she's pretty damn strong. One way I would describe her is that she's a weak strong character, if that makes sense. She's one of the strongest characters, but she's the weakest out of the strongest characters when it comes to DPS, if you get what I mean. Like, so there's S tier characters, right? She's like, when it comes to DPS, she's like right at the bottom. She's worse than all the S tiers, but she's not exactly, but she's better than all like the average and like slightly above average characters when it comes to DPS, which puts her in a weird spot, to be honest. Like, when you like, Keqing's DPS is on its own, it's fairly impressive. Like, if you compare Diluc without elemental reactions to a Keqing without elemental reactions, they would be pretty close, honestly. I don't know if that's a controversial statement, but I think so. So why do people, like, why does she seem weaker than him then? And that's because, well, pyro. It's the pyro element. Like, fire damage is insane. Like, they have access to the melt reaction and the vaporize reaction. Both of the, depending on what triggers a reaction, it can buff your damage by up to 2 times. Yeah, so Diluc in big showcases is doing double the damage compared to a Keqing in big showcases. If Keqing had access to elemental reactions like as strong as vaporize or melt, which I don't know if Electro will ever be that strong, but let's say Electro did get reactions like that, she could be probably just as strong or stronger than Diluc, in my opinion. Like, she's, her DPS without elemental reactions is pretty good. I mean, people are gonna bring up other faster DPSs that are in a similar boat to her, mainly Zhao, because Zhao is a character that has no elemental reactions. Keqing has elemental reactions that are weak, but Zhao has 0. And he completely beats her when it comes to damage. I feel like a big part of that is that, well, Zhao is a character, I feel like he was designed in a way to keep in mind that he doesn't have elemental reactions. So what MiHoYo usually does when they're making like a 5-star DP, like DPSs, physical DPS, or like animal DPS or geo DPS, like DPSs that have like generally not as much value from elemental reactions, they generally give them like either higher damage scaling, so like the damage they do, that like the raw damage they do is just better. So that makes Zhao get a, I guess, if he was like pyro, I don't think his base damage would be as strong. Maybe it would, because MiHoYo did release Hu Tao and Ganyu, so we don't really know. But like, the thing is, Keqing is made in a way to keep in mind that she does have elemental reactions, but her elemental reactions don't really offer much, so she might as well not have them. maybe I'm degrading her elemental reactions because Electro Charged is great when using the Thunder Suitor set, and like characters like Child in like a comp with Beto and Fischl can really take advantage of that reaction. But like that reaction is more about consistent damage, and Child also does more damage than Keqing. It's sort of hard to say if Keqing needs a buff or not, but like I honestly think she doesn't. Another thing is that nowadays, especially with the release of Eula, people, when they look at how strong a character is, it's less about, ooh, look, I'm so strong, and it's more about, I mean, it's less about, oh, look, my DPS, damage per second, is amazing. It's more about, look, I can hit this big number. So what I mean is, a Eula hitting 5 million damage, that's insane. Let's be honest, that's insane. But the amount of work that takes and how long it takes to pull that off, it's not as valuable as having great DPS, which is how much damage you can consistently output, damage per second. And Keqing in the apartment is a lot better than she looks. See, in Keqing's game design, everything about her is supposed to be fast. Like her attack, like her damage is more about a bunch of small hits than a bunch of like a big hit. Like for example, compared to Ganyu's more of like a nuke playstyle where she just nukes the enemy. She's more about having smaller damage numbers. Like her burst is a bunch of small slashes with one bigger slash at the end of damage, electro damage, right? By the way, in this video I'm mainly talking about electro Keqing, although some of the points do apply to physical Keqing. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I don't really have experience with physical Keqing, so I can't really talk about it. So when you look at screenshots or like look at showcases of a Keqing or a Ganyu, even though Ganyu is obviously stronger, Keqing looks weaker than she does because of her numbers. Like she has smaller damage numbers on screen, even though she can put out quite a bit of damage over time. She's a great sustained DPS. And by the way, sustained DPS is like a DPS you would use over a long period of time. So like, not something like Child. Like Child is a burst DPS. And even D-Look could be considered a burst DPS because his main damage does come from his E skills and his pyro-infused elemental burst. So when you keep that in mind, Keqing is a lot stronger than people give her credit for, to be honest. I mean, with the fact that she has access to weak elemental reactions, and that she's, unlike characters like Zhao, like I said, she doesn't have damage scaling that's so high that elemental reactions don't matter, she can still beat most of the content in the game. Like, if you see in this video here, not in this clip here, I'm running Keqing with Xingqiu, Fischl, and Barbara. I got Jean today, so I'm no longer using Barbara, thank God. Why won't MiHoYo give me Bennett? But that's a topic for another day. Anyways, yeah, so if you see this, I'm using supports that are all great, to be honest. But I'm gonna be honest, maybe aside from Fischl, I'm not actually getting that much damage from my supports. Like Xingqiu, I haven't built him for damage, although I am working on that. Like his burst skill doesn't do much damage. It's more to cause an electro charge reaction, which again, kind of has underwhelming damage in the late game. So pretty much all my damage is coming from Keqing. Compare that to the Mount Ganyu team that you saw in the earlier clips. Even though my Ganyu was doing insane damage with elemental reactions, because Ganyu's damage is insane regardless if she has elemental reactions or not. But my damage is almost doubling when my Zhangling was in play. Notice the boost that the supports give when the elemental reactions stronger. Like elemental reactions are the cornerstone of combat in this game. Like every DPS pretty much, aside from the few examples I mentioned, relies on elemental reaction in some capacity. Even physical DPSs do. Like Eula, Super conduct really helps her out. It's pretty much the very destined winner set, but for physical damage. So it's a great elemental reaction. So when we talk about it that way, I feel like I honestly think that people are just whining about Keqing. Like, she doesn't need a buff. It's unfortunate that she's from an element that frankly is pretty weak, to be honest. The weakest in the game at the moment. Because its support capabilities aren't as good as Geo or Animal, and its main DPS capabilities is nowhere near Pyro, Hydro, or Cryo. And still, Keqing is probably the strongest Electro DPS in the game. Not probably, she is the strongest. So if MiHoYo, which people are saying they will, decides to buff Keqing, I think she's going to be pretty great. Anyways, I mean, I want to hear what you guys think about Keqing. Do you think she needs a buff? I personally don't think she does. I definitely think her element does. This was a fun discussion. Anyways, bye guys.